다 가상 안서 델레서 이 코멘터리 데 잡아이나 순주 소시 셈제 담바 청주 총 서지 칼레서 더블 봐 대다라 라마남게 템바이 양다 탑니 샤브차 스티시기로.
So we have come to the point where it's about showing the authentic means that have been taught by the spiritual teachers to those who wish to attain supreme enlightenment.
아야 다 들려 인도 먼저 감다고 슬라데 심전 담바 세디 가르시기야 심전 담바 세디 기부 중문데 전부 송게 나로네 기부 전부 게 간사다 시기요 심전 담바 슬라고다 담바 다드네 청죽 초 슬라데 나라서 미윤 드부드 시기요 단 더블 조바 슬라든 더블 조바 스는 수체도스 남저 타 예베 심제 탐제게 동의 교단체 발레 저체도 데네 더블 조바 데달라 슬라든 다 덴데게 남게 개we 고바 던도 녀게 전주 첨부 던도 녀게 간사 데달라 라마남게 슬라데다 조지 아디샤 코란게 니랑소 메송구야레 이나마 녀게 마셰데 이나마 큐바 다버 다자가 좀 체게 투베 손에 지나다 드라마 고물루루 옆에 큐바다 토미 옆에 큐베게 어디나마 다다 다신냠제기 로중제다 네 용제 명아 등기권의 로 중지다 고 된대기 로 장바 대라 때네 된대기 라마남게 당하라 땜바 때네 양다 탑니 샤버 차스나 양다 탑슬라데 지당 고당 망고지 예가 나와네 갑 다가랑라 정주 심지에 탑라 정주 심 양다바 게게 탑 마노와라 어디 마셰기 니스 샤브라 차 스티셰기 니스.
So the verse verse we are talking about is verse number 6, starts with the line, for those excellent living beings. So who are the excellent, or noble would be another word, living beings? Those are those individuals with superior capacities, so not those of mediocre or inferior capacities, but those with the great capacities, who desire supreme enlightenment. So this is the aim that they hold at heart, the wish to achieve supreme awakening. For who? For whom? The answer is for the sake of all infinite sentient beings, so that they may be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So to those individuals who strive for Buddhahood, the state of full omniscience, Atisha says he's going to show the skillful means that serve that purpose. And these skillful means that he says I shall explain are not something that I made up, but they are something that were taught by the Buddha, that were then passed on in an uninterrupted manner all the way till they were propagated by Nagarjuna, then Asanga and his disciples, and so forth. And the tools that they taught that are included in these skillful means are, among others, the ways of mind training that entail exchanging ourselves for others. Then the other path of training would be the 7 points of cause and result. So here, especially the perfect methods that were shown in an uninterrupted way and passed on in an uninterrupted way all the way from the Buddha up to Atisha's times, entail here not generally the skillful means for awakening, but especially the tools to generate bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, in an authentic, unmistaken manner. So these skillful means with such an authentic lineage that are not invented by Atisha himself are what he is going to explain in the following verses.
Tendegi kansa rangi kibu chimbo sade. Kibu chimbo sade. Tepa chimbo lawe amata tanda kibu chimbo sade. Jadang rangi kibu chimbo nalo la ya tsuba la. Tendegi nalo tsuba la. Tara chashana ngaro sangi yu kuji tongwa nina. Tan ditabo ji rala tama nyambe dine semge.
Sangi ki ku tongne ani semge.
Tanga ta tendegi yorba. Kunda dine je nyundu da. Ta ditabo ki jini the 고방지 라라 타나 삼바이데 근데게 섬주게 되네 섬주 하전 슈침보 요되네 근데 야 상계다 장주선 바남기 되네베 가서 우송투고 연대된데 지 거삼년도 가라 됐다 괜찮아 좋다 나라라다 니아파르토 중국이도 삼바 근데 주나 마주나 탑면도 삼바된다. 이 태바천도 디도에.
Kiran ki sunke tes mapudur kare yangia Chicago sare rivela.
아, 까면도 까레지.
Karina tes chik tes mamagina tes ke chemburo sunke ke chemburo tes.
안 카린다이나.
Ota tarin chayo sare wala.
야.
Tes tuji re ta di kibu chembo ki ta sem jongtan di shegyor be di kapsu.
아, 기부 첨벽이 기부 가사랑이 되는 기부 첨벽 나로 추버차라 심 계단지 여러 봐.
네.
상계기 군가된데 제윤도 한 디더비기 고방치 소소라이 군 디더비를 고방치 소소라이 주나 삼배 삼주치.
네.
삼주 하창의 숙침보여야 되네. 양 상계다 장주 셈바된데 이게 구송토고 연내된데 싸울 땅자. 배 대달라 대마시오 깨나 된데 단 디더비지 소소라 막 네버도 중국도 단 데마 좀 타면도 삼바. 근데 상로 코리아. 다데네냐 태바침벽에 상계게 땜바데 마 냠도야 된다 통하니나 어떤데 무수비 초쇼 침보 시죠 단 디도 라바 디 매바 차나 뺏사서 내가 가서 가르쳐다 가서 카데 매바 차서 선배냐 섬주쇼 침보 요야 된다 야나 심제 동에게 넣어주던데 상담 봐이나 나 된다라데 무수바데 통에 되달라 무수베던데 삼바 쇼침보 시거든데 게던데 어떤데 삼바던데 게발을 때네 도와잖아 이 가사랑이 기부 침보시 나리야 추두고야
나서
미지 쇼침보 게도 탑되들라 때네 게인 거
So we are talking here about an individual of supreme capacities, and that is not to be misunderstood as a synonym for a Mahayana practitioner. So what is such an individual? How does it become a supreme individual, an individual of supreme capacities? What's the mindset that makes that individual enter the setting of an individual of great capacities? It is, for example, that individual sees a Buddha statue or representation of the Buddha, and based on that gets deeply inspired generates bodhicitta and the wish, may I become exactly like the Buddha? May I also achieve the same insight, the same wisdom? Or that individuals comes across any of the representations of the three jewels and starts to contemplate about the qualities that the three jewels embody. And based on that contemplation, deep faith is generated, and that triggers the wish in that individual, may I obtain this as well? But not only may I obtain, it goes beyond that. Actually, I really deeply feel like I have to obtain this. That is so important. I also need to go into that direction and make these qualities my own. I have to follow in the footsteps of the three jewels. So there is this really great intention in that stands that is like the hallmark for the doorway or the entrance gateway into being an individual of supreme capacities. And one other characteristic would be that such an individual sees, observes, witnesses how the Mahayana teachings degenerate in some way or are at the risk of fading or losing. And that triggers an immense feeling of, no, I can't allow this to happen. I can't let the Mahayana degenerate. What can I do to save the Mahayana teachings? What can I do to preserve them? Or another mindset could be seeing the suffering of sentient beings, seeing the state of suffering they are in, and really feeling an unbearable state coming with it, like a really heartbroken. And those are all preparative steps for generating great compassion. And these are sort of we could say the entrance points into being an individual of supreme capacity. 다 직갑선 양면의 직갑도다. Oh yeah, that is. That is sorry. Koda. 다 직송난다. That is dudo test. Kare tap min kanske.
Ja, danke. 제가 누상 상바이나 난도 알레 기부 첨부 세디가 나와라 추발라 빼는 담보디 라인바 랑게 텐도 민종의 상바 삐다고 쉬우지 깨네 얘네 셴라 파 카페나 니지티그레 슬라네 라구야로
네
셴라 카파페나 니지데 지그레데 얘네 셴라 카파페 스데 레라고 치마 그 남산 니지게 조조체 말에 이거 뭐 정야 그 림바 쉬우지요 이게 나와 제가 당한테 단다디 시기요래 가사라니기 그나 택바 준비기 기회신기 심바치 고고야래 하고서 택바 준비 기회신기 딱도 소소라 쳤다네 택바 준비 기회신기 심바치 고고야래 심쟁게 동엔 나주들라 야야 곰 야야 쌈 대라라 되네 그때 미스데 되네 삼바슈 첨부께 봐 네 갈래 니지 춘중게 되네 첩 노사다 되고 고글에데 얘네양 삼바두스카리 연구고야래
야
어디라다
We already talked about the fact that all of this starts with an individual generating authentic renunciation, turning with the mind away from samsara for one's own sake. So it all starts there, and then we saw that birth of compassion arises by turning sort of this renunciation around and thinking now all this reflection of suffering and so forth, projecting it onto sentient beings, reflecting it in the situation that sentient beings are in. This very act, so sort of changing the focus of the thought of renunciation towards others, is not an easy step. It is very, very hard, and there are various steps of mind training that help us to turn the mind towards others, away from our own sake. And in order for that to happen, and therefore for compassion to truly arise, one needs to rely on a spiritual friend, a spiritual teacher, guide that shows one the Mahayana path, that shows the Mahayana Dharma continuously. And then there is also the step of reflecting again and again and meditating about the suffering of sentient beings that sentient beings experience. And that then bit by bit will bring to a feeling of feeling like unbearable, that the suffering is unbearable that one observes. So all of these are prior steps to the true generation of great compassion. They are very necessary, but they are not happening from today to tomorrow and not all together. So these are various steps on the path towards generating great compassion.
양다 탑니 샤버라 차 송로바 양다 탑니 샤버라 차 양다 탑니 샤버라 차 슬라데 덴데기 니지 가서 다 니지 새롱바 깨깨데베 니지 침보시 깨데 와 알레 당고 드리실라네 데도 니지 세대야 냥 데레스 나라도 파쳐들 미 방고시 통고도 오 주저들 미 내바시 통고도 오 드줄로베네 ninja sambaskiya 나한테 지기 또 맞아 냠바로 춘주 때 투연다 지게 되겠지 얘라 닌지 침도 나로 싸우는 누구야 일 닌지 주문 잡잖아 다 이네에서 팬도지다 여러 거 개와지다 누구를 돼 이네다 닌지기 차시한다 답에 수르치마다 레기야 따라 차시나 와 ninji들 까짜 없지 까짜 까탄 거지 ninji슬라도나 드레스한다네 딜라베고 색지마다 야마 강같이 야마 다 들리지 ninji 문에게 ninji 첨부서 게 연대 가라 저런데 타게나 가르쳐 두고 열어서 저런 거 롱주 가르 계산은 가르이네 저런 게 까지 까도 바탕 둬야지 근데 있음시 ninji 첨부께도 되는게 뭐 동네 파리도 동네들 상당인데나 동네들 간대지 상당 동네들 동네 짬라 전대 짬 라닌지 쓰기야 말아 되게 깝들 이닌지 차시지래데 주로 동네 짬을 쓰기야 그 차바 누지게 동네서 와 제가 나시게 동네 유세라 근데 그 동네 유세나 동네 대다게 줄래 얘네 전대다 탄대다 얘네 점되게 삼바 얘네 뭐지 장안 윤도 간라 얘네 민지 첨부스지 누구야 마다 대한 심지 지게 말이 봐스 누가 상담이 와
And here therefore Atisha says, I will teach the authentic means. The authentic means for what? Should be understood. The authentic means for generating authentic compassion that's not just ordinary or small, but great compassion. So what does it mean, great compassion, and how is it different from any other form of compassion? For example, if we see a beggar or a sick person in the street, on the road, in the city, or wherever, then normally that triggers a feeling of, oh, how heartbreaking to see that, how sad, poor guy, poor woman, whoever that is, poor person. And then sometimes we also give something to the beggar, maybe some money or something to eat and so forth, something small. So we should never mistake this for great compassion. In fact, that is just a tiny, very tiny bit of what compassion really is. Of course, such an act, such a response is something beneficial. It generates virtue, but it's in truth just a tiny angle, tiny corner of the fullness that compassion really is. So real great compassion. It would not come close to even 1% of great compassion. So what is real, the real and authentic great compassion? What is that? That is when we are able to give away anything that belongs to us, whether it's our body, our possessions, for the sake of someone else. It is not only the wish to free sentient beings from the suffering of suffering. It is the wish to free all sentient beings without exception from all sorts of suffering, whether it is suffering of suffering, suffering of change, or the all-pervasive suffering, whether it's the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death, any form of suffering. There is the wish, may all sentient beings without exception be free from all of these sufferings and their causes. The wish, may I free them, may I be able to protect them, may I liberate from that. So this is what great compassion is.
자다 양다 탑니 쉐버 자스르다 탑데 다 간데 쉐긴데 소라나 전주 주베 탑데 쉐긴이 있어 셈제 담바 전주 쇼게 고방라 더버 두바 대달라 수르 쉐긴인데 라드 덴데기 셴드 터두지 두버는데게 셴드 두베 쳇도 런이 전주 된다게 강사들라마 탑데 쉐긴이 나라지 그래 다 셴 타예베 심전데다 동에 교단체벨 드 던도 라나메베 정주고 고바 단도니베 심 슬라드 단도니베 심지 계지 점지 안줄에 지기로 봐 심지 지가 말로 동에 교단체벨 참 삼지 심 계지 점지 안줄에 지기로 세근지 좀 지기로 봐다 와 이네 디 양양 뭐창네 딘데게 데 땡enge 강사 될라 다 전주 쪽에 탑게 된게 인승구야 심제 담바 슬라드
네.
심제 담바 슬라드 단다데 간데스면 닌지 까차로지네 새롱바 짜제 짜탐바 께 되는게 닌지 슈침보지 께 되는 닌지 침보께 되는 강사 될라스요 어
Tadi ngone ni de chembo kietsar kindi tila kogorwa ni de chembo semchen tampa konda.
전주 쪽에 탑데 될라시
Re tadi ngone semchen tampa di ninje gyachak ya kietsar ware.
그래.
Ale. And therefore these skillful means that are going to be shown are the skillful means necessary to accomplish Buddhahood, but for the sake of who, of what, not for one's own sake, but for the sake of accomplishing the benefit of all beings. And therefore, to be clear about, again, to whom Atisha is speaking here, it is an individual of, here the verse 6 says, excellent living beings. So these are individuals that do not only generate this wish for a few seconds, because also for us as individuals on the path, it is possible, and indeed it happens, that for some seconds we have the wish to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all beings, so that they may be free from suffering. That happens to us as well. But here he speaks to excellent noble beings who have already embodied great compassion by 100%, not just a few seconds here and then, by training again and again and again in this path and continuing to the training continuously. So continuously striving in achieving the goal and cultivating this mindset for 100%.
심수 관대적에게 인데게 인지 첨부 균den게 가사들라 셈게 누바 슈다다 관대지요. 심수도 관대지요. 네. 셴도 두발라 딱 강에 가르쳐봐 얘는 강에 들라 강에도 민제봐 또 슈침보 쉬어지게 되지. 그 강에 성기야마 들라서 참아서 두게 또 두슈 심보 쉬어지요 되네.
자동 카레?
또 슈침보.
좋아.
다 무엇을 라인 따인데가 저러대 배 준비 하좀 슈침보여야 되네. 셴도 두비 준비 셴도 두발라 준비 슈침보여야 되네. 가봤어?
Ja. Geshe di tanda semjen tamba di kong gyundu tanda jangjugi semla negi yorbe ninja chembula.
아, ninja 심볼라 내대 여러분.
Takpar negi yorbe kong tanda tempo chatsarbe.
템포 차다. 나 내 템포 차다.
Lasso tene driksonga test norjuna samsung las.
템포 차다. 오, 근데 템포 차되는 미들라다. 기부 담바데, 심지 담바데. 당원에 단에 셴든 두발라 강에 간테지 여바 이나양 강에 데라. 당도 강에 도마즈자 데라 또 슈신고 쉬실래 되네.
예.
저 준비 하청 슈신고 지나. 가르 좋아지고 지나 또막 가르 대처도 가르치고 주는 애들 배거나 좋아준지스나 좋았으나 가르치고 주는 거와 두zu 가세 땅고 주는 내가 가르치에 여봐이나 대 탐제라 배데 준주 수신부 준주스나 배 나라도 배 쪼에선 봐봐 대 두발라 쪼에선 봐 준주라고 준주 수천부 해야 되냐 가르쳐서 다 가라라 헬로
Hallo, Digito.
알아 내가 시시서 같잖아
Dilla sama Digito nge shushaga.
나래
Las. Such an individual who has great compassion, what is the mental power they have? They have the mental strength to, whenever they face difficulties, in order to be of benefit for sentient beings, they are actually happy. So they have carry in mind the aim to accomplish the benefit of beings, and that entails that when they actually encounter difficulties, they are ready to face them with a lot of patience. They are very able to deal with the difficulties, but not only that, they are pleased by the difficulties. The difficulties create joy for them. And in the terms of how they engage, they are in terms of practice or behavior, they are incredibly diligent and always diligent in the sense of always aiming and performing deeds for the benefit of others, incredibly diligent. And therefore, whenever they have a chance to practice something for that goal, for that sake of benefiting others, then they engage in that with enormous joy. That's why diligence is also often translated as joyful effort, right? So such an individual has extreme potential and extreme capacities in those regards, and extreme mental power.
제시 샤라와 가르송이야랬으나 제시 샤라와 데네 덴데게 semje tamba tekwa chimbo rikse de nge kasa dela hasam hachang shu chimbo re
Laksam pe shuk chembo.
shenju duge hasam de hachang shu chimbo re korange ndeba de lama me be changshu re 수체도 쓸라도 타예의 생전기 디지 주역의 체도 동에서의 체도 딘데기드는 전도년의 강사지 기부들의 차사에서 와 심지어 바바세데 와
The spiritual teacher Geshe Sharawa said regarding the characteristic of an individual that is so-called excellent, an excellent individual, a individual pertaining to the family of the Mahayana, is someone who has an incredible altruistic mindset focused on the benefit of sentient beings. Such an individual their only wish is to achieve supreme Buddhahood for the countless sentient beings, for their sake, which means the wish that they may be completely happy and well and free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Such an individual is an excellent, what was the verse saying here? Excellent living being, a noble being.
전juk semsede 간다에 전juk sem스 라도 간다시라고 알았잖아. 전juk sem들라 군웅다 니지도 우리와.
군웅당 민제.
말에 군웅라 니지.
군웅라 민제.
주 군웅들 니지제. 니지 친구자. 와. 다음 전juk sem 코란게 너바다 가래서나 산기가 고방되긴 봐. 전주 첨부 누구여 봐. 근데 전주 첨부 너베 셈 개발천지다. 전주 셈스라고 여러. 전주 셈서 전주 첨부 너베 셈. 수체도 쓰나 셈쟁체도. 셈쟁게 가래체. 내가 대화 잡지 말해. 더도 그 대화 좀 쳐. 셈쟁게 동에 규단 잡아 줘야 된다. 딘데지 그 돈도 라니 소장 돈도 니베 셈 캐버전 딘데 찍라 전죽 셈스 디 타과 친구 디 셈데 야 공룡도 남시sel라 다 가르쳐게 열었을라도 그도 얘네야 다 셈디게 샤데요 시험만 봐지 곰 잡에 가도 이게 마야 곰 맞아 그러냐 제로스 되네 많이 봐. 근데 저 년도가 택과 침보스 넣지 그래. 단지 기부 침보인 봐. 다 택과 침보스 넣지 거야. 택과 침보는 주베 고대 전죽 셈브레스 모두 상담.
Geshe la kiran ki di sonso ta koran ki chika lamola yang di tremba chegi mare segora sonso. Ya.
어떻게는 네. 와 전죽 셈서데 타예베 심진기 대화 조회가 쳐도 라마메베 전주도베 셈데 가두이나 예서지. 와.
네 하고.
처음만 봐.
네.
내 가슴 빼자서. 나도 그거 15도 아닌데 가는 깨지 세기라 칼라데 되게 봐. 봐주다.
네.
아 15도 되게 가는 냥지 나도 참자는 두고 있는 추도 되게 어 된다 없었어. 그래다.
Mare, ngatso tsamsa ma togo tona tene kala tengroa. Tene
칼라 초지나 칼라 되게 봐. 난 나도 카시고 좀 돼요나. 매도 동자라 시부진 알레데 닝지부 되게 둥구야 돼. 이네 초지는 추도 되게 봐. 뭐 된다. 전죽 쓰면서 어떤지 보고야.
알레타 takpa tengo te야도.
셈스 초지는 그 tengo 있어.
네.
깔래장와 베즐 때 먹어 봐. 나 주시
메디어레스.
카시부 군도 가나 추동야 더발라 베즐 좀 말아 봐. 되는 신.
네. So this mindset of bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, has at its basis, at its causal state, the so-called intention that is great compassion. And the wish, the aim of bodhicitta is to attain supreme Buddhahood. For who? For all sentient beings. And why? Is it because so that they may temporarily be happy? No. It's for the lasting joy, so that they may ultimately be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, not just temporarily. And therefore, here this noble individual generates this mindset of bodhicitta, trains in it again and again, to the point that it becomes so natural that it's effortlessly present at all times, even at the moment of death. That individual does not cultivate bodhicitta in one moment and forget it in the next. And therefore, this kind of mindset, this supreme mind of awakening that is called bodhicitta, is then said to be the entry point into the Mahayana path, the vehicle. And the image that Geshe gave here was like when somebody is thirsty, then without effort, even though this person, you might take this person in the midst of the most beautiful park with the most beautiful flowers, this individual will naturally think about water all the time without putting effort into it. So that's how this individual, noble individual that enters the Mahayana path is constantly in the presence of bodhicitta without effort.
That's right. That in the Chanjuk Sam Kia top the Atisha Lamana Tene, that shaking in Sung Song. The Lamana Tene shaking Sung Wajim, Atisha Koran Tended Chabaravas. Chaba Pendidaravas. Nijim Lamana thinking is the ten ma shaking Sung Wai Gunziminduga. Koran Raso. Nye Raso me Nye Lamana Tene shaking in Sung Adilra. This by Gemindu was in Piwach level. Legation June. The Geshe June the he kinds of George and get Dendes or Geshe Potoa get Dinsona. George and George Atisha get Dendes soon at the Narato Tum and Narato Tangaji Asti. Atisha Korange, the Dingaranga Sheshim, Sunga Marajan Lamana, Tene shaking soon at the Nandula Tangares.
Kinda.
Well, Nandula Tapana Gibe Tanga de Chungsa the Ganere, Selati, Chungsa the Butani, Chinzuka Gibe, Cuba Paramacha passage, Nanzo Tanga de Manangiores.
And Atisha says that these skillful means to generate bodhicitta, which he will explain, are taught by the spiritual teachers and are therefore not something that he came up with or that he is inventing right here on the spot. So why is that, we could wonder, because Atisha was an incredible scholar and very wise being. Why would he refer on what others said, other spiritual teachers? So he's not saying in the verse, I know about this, and therefore I will talk about this from my own perspective. And why is that? And Geshe Potoa, he answered that concern or that doubt, and he says that itself is an instruction that Atisha is giving. And what kind of instruction? It shows the disciples that what he is going to teach, what he's going to share, are profound instructions that have originated in the teachings of the Buddha and passed on up to this day in an uninterrupted manner. So this is the special instruction that we can draw from Atisha's way of presenting the topic.
제가 아티샤 코랑라 드네베 연대 첨부께 와다 충중께 뭐 여자 라미 거리나 때네 중 써야지. 와 된대지 고에쳐도 숨바래서.
Liang Potowe Sungre.
어.
And Potowe also further explains that Atisha, by saying this, also wanted us to know that whatever qualities he generated, he obtained, whether they are minor or major qualities, that they are all thanks to the kindness of his spiritual teachers that this was possible. So it's thanks to them that he was able to develop these profound and whether they were major or minor qualities.
제가 라미 거진다 라미 진럽라 때네 다 최근 연대의 참말라마를 때네 연구야 봐. 비거진 챔베 셔도. 아디샤가 당하데 되려다. 나라도 어디 계시 보도가 됐송죠.
And therefore this shows that all the qualities, the noble qualities that Atisha generated were born based on the kindness and the blessing of his spiritual teachers. And therefore this way of speaking is also showing or that he's repaying and that he's very grateful to the spiritual teacher. So repaying the gratitude as the kindness as well as showing his gratitude for his spiritual teachers. So actually this very verse also shows the way to how to tend, how to rely on a spiritual teacher.
나라도 책이 된다데 하고 오야. 제가 책이 막 던바이나 다소소 나라도 다가서 나 아디샤 송데 남들로 제타인서 멤버체. 로조 제타나 수수 귤레지 고고야. 귤레지 용고야. 귤레 연대지 용고야. 제가 책이 된다도 좀 책로 차나 야고야. 다sem제 담바 세데기 가인스나 단다 전주 쌤 계획 너도 못 손도 너도 전주 쌤게 담바다 전주 쌤게 담바스는도 당하스는도 전주 쌤게 당한 톱톱도 맞던에게 던세게 너도 소리전 쌤게 담바스들레스 너도로 너도 못 손 라마난게 담바니 슬라도 라마난게 담바니 세데게 가인스나 슈 갑디 수라 때네 라마라 때네 주베 라마라 때네 무스랑게 진짜자와 라마라 때네 세나 라메 딘주드게 되죠 라마스데 거진 라메 거진 전예게 쳐도 어두스 사마 디네 된겨 자천부도 문제죠 저 자천부 정죽 쌤께야가 쌤께에 되네 당아 자천부 되게 돼 라마라 때네 중서 저 자신부터 전고 뒤도 봐라
라마라 때네 중디여 바텐고레스
최고란 자신부 봐 대야 라마라 때네 이거 봐
So you see that there are various layers of meaning in just one verse, and it is very important and helpful if when we read through these lines, we do not just think, I already studied that, okay, let's go to the next verse. No, but that you actually generate that something, some sort of understanding is born in your mind stream. that the words are so profound in meaning, and that you recall that, so that somehow your mind stream is affected and bit by bit transformed by this meaning. So the verse shows various layers, and one of them, as we have already seen, is that it speaks to the noble being. So it shows who are the vessels, the best recipients for these instructions, the recipients for the skillful means of generating bodhicitta. And then the verse shows that these skillful means have been transmitted in an uninterrupted lineage of spiritual masters, and therefore that then also shows the gratitude that Atisha himself cultivated for his spiritual teacher, but that also we are to cultivate, and how precious the Dharma teachings are. And therefore that these profound pith instructions about the way to generate bodhicitta are possible to be received thanks to a spiritual guide, a spiritual teacher. And that therefore pith instruction means that these are extremely profound Dharma teachings. They are very, very precious, and the source for them are the spiritual masters. So you can see that there are all these various levels of meaning in just one verse.
양다 탑은 시에버 차스데 가서 이가서 전주섬 기회 탑들에 전주섬 숭외 탑더라 저는 멤버 초게 숭바 멤섬데 초게 권의 숭야지도 와
초게 초가 알레 초가오
초가 제발라 되는 멤섬 숭야
초가 때는 라키에 바로와
초가라 되는 기기여 봐 주바 생겨야 주베 동발안에 깨도가 어두지 탑됐습니다. 민주가 셈께가 탑데 무슨 초가 송와다 주숨 주dum다 주dum 송와라 되네 깨고윤데 어된데 탑데 마마마마 나 술라데 댄사 술라데서나 근데 내가 등에 돈을 놓창 인지 하삼께 되는 미들라 봐
양kersun tensa di gyundre menga duntang
등을 놓창 발라 때네 단인지 하장 슈첨부 때되네 화성 슈첨부 여되네 그 강사 전주 된도 년에 강사 되라 봐 전주 된도 년 와이네 남삼면서 멤버 생계의 지기 말어 봐 제가 어딘데 강사 되라다 땡고야 멤버 생계 초계고네 된 멤버 생계 개당 좀 받았대
이는 거
되네 주베 동발 라베 권에 된 전주 가서다 주심 기회 좀 받았대 오도스레
Geshe tetum sason karechene tanda jangju sem kebe tapta tam kebu tamba chatsana ko jangju sem ketsarware ani karechene yankya ta jangju sem kebe tap tengyure
단다 기부 침보레스
ale kebu chembore tekpa chembo mares
마레스 제가 곧 태바 침보를 야 슈고
ale hakos tadi yankya konsola shushana ya se puchagre So these authentic, perfect, the text says perfect in English, these perfect methods are what will be explained. The perfect methods are the methods that show how to generate bodhicitta. So just to make this clear, and I just asked for clarification because I was a little bit confused, as I said to Geshe, why are we speaking about generating bodhicitta when we already have seen that we are talking about excellent living beings? Are they not already, did we not just say that they have already generated bodhicitta very firmly? And Geshe said that that's different. Excellent living beings are not yet necessarily within the Mahayana vehicle. So to enter the Mahayana path, we need firm bodhicitta, as was explained. So an excellent living being has great compassion, but not yet firmly established bodhicitta in their mind stream. So that's maybe helpful to know. So it's about making excellent living beings enter the Mahayana path. And therefore, these excellent skillful means that are going to be explained, they will refer to how to generate bodhicitta in both aspects, the aspects of aspiration and the aspect of application. So the bodhicitta of aspiration will be generated based on a ritual that's going to be explained, and then the bodhicitta of application based on the vows, the bodhisattva vows. So to whom are these perfect methods shown, or to whom will they be shown? To an individual that has already trained the mind in the mind training of the 7 points of cause and result, and therefore has generated great compassion, this altruistic mindset, and strives for the achievement of full Buddhahood.
Yes, one. All those that Janju some Korala Rim that Musoke the Karila Tene Kiki do, Sena Gunda Manga Dun. Ya, one would do the Gunda Manga Dun la Rim Gilo Chambala Tene, Janju some Kiki do. One would number to get Tadan Shen, Nyambakon, dinner Tashin Chivi Sambake. Then they get Lot Chambala Tene, dinner Janju some Kiki do. Yinea, one number Yena, Gunda Manga Duna Song Tango. One would do in a Tashan Yamjalo no Chango. Yinea, so Changmachan Kavaji is that Dilla. Gunda Manga doing the law China, the one would do in the Tashan Yamjatol, there's some just shoot down Hadoche, Tashan Yamji Gomyadi Tola. Or so Gunda Manga doing to the law China in Tonto. That the Tashan Yamji Gomyan, the woman number dig. Ko Gunda Manga to the Salamatarandare, Saltangore, Tito Yamni Chegore. Yine a Takos Nushu, center de Co, Shu Chen of the Tashan Yamji. Tata Shenyama Cherry Sambakeva, then Chanju Simke, the nature of the Tomar de Libene, Nova Senge, said it, Duska game.
Kaduke Yungire, Tilatine.
Not the Dala Teneta, Nova Senge.
And how is bodhicitta generated? Based on what? What is the path that leads to the generation of bodhicitta? It depends on the capacity of an individual. What is the path for them to generate bodhicitta? For example, an individual of the least capacities will train in the 7 steps of cause and result, in the sevenfold mind training. And an individual with superior capacities will rather train in equalizing and then subsequently exchanging himself for herself for the other. And in this way, bodhicitta is generated. But it is not that either individual, whether they have a superior capacity or inferior capacity, only rely on that method and don't apply the other one. No, in fact, they both tend on both methods. So, for example, the individual of least capacities will also train to some extent the mind in equalizing and exchanging oneself for the others, but not to the same extent as how they train in the 7 points. And the same goes for an individual with great capacities. They will also train in the 7 points of cause and result, and not only in equalizing and exchanging themselves for others. But the main focus of their practice will be the one that was mentioned before. But they have, and there is no way around the other method as well. So there is a certain extent of training in both methods, but one will be the one that prevails in the training of the mind in order to generate bodhicitta. And based on these 2 paths of trainings, then at some point, the bodhicitta of aspiration will arise.
other chat. Did it just sound done? Did the other control that you do your laptop? Dambo member Senge, Tinin Juba Senge. It's a few water man shake it, did another one and man shake it, Alina, Aledambo, in this shit. That's Semge Corala, Chidang, Namji Chana, the Amdor Monko in Aleti Paraja Malaba, the chest some. Never to the same. Hasam Tabe Senge. Number Mimbi Senge. Jibapam Senge. Senge Rinpoche Geshe.
Oh, today, Kandri Nangi Hakumi.
Ale under the deception. Deception. That Yemigo. Yana that dosre. That data be Senge days. Some member Senge that Juba Senge Geshe. That data be Senge day. Then, that Kaswa. Yanda top the shower, Senge getting top the shaking soon, top the shaking soon. That top de la Samba Pinzo, Yadang Ribachi. Joa Pinzo, Yadang Ribachi. What a Dendegi Samba Pinzo, Joa Pinzo, Stana, what Dendegi la Tene, Dene, what a Chanjuk Sem de Keku.
Chanjuk Mensemina Juxemika.
Nigata, Samba Pinto, Chida, Joa Pinto, Tene, but Samba Pinto can escape.
Should you Sadichimi? Yeah. Can this get go Samba Pinto Tanjaro Pinto?
That was somewhat you are, Chanju some gear, somewhat sure. There are Samba Pinto Slavia. The Samba Pinto said they can allow a Karakari Yungure. Joa Pinto said they can allow Karakari Yungure. The Nila then a Chanju some Kebu.
So when we speak about bodhicitta, then that normally entails the two aspects of bodhicitta, the bodhicitta of aspiration and bodhicitta of application. So there are essentially two ways to meet skillful means that will be causal in the bringing about of bodhicitta, and the one is the excellent mindset, and the other one is excellent application.
Dendege penyon chenge chanjuk sem de kyewa la kar cheku re. Oda tso sa tiba changu re. Liu nipa legi yorwa. Tso sa tijang liu chis. Chazang chanjuk sem penyon chenge chanjuk sem de kyewa la kar cheku re. Ngazol lega kari yoris. Ta ngazol sem dendege gogi na ngazol lega kari yoris la yundu. Ta lega ngazol tso sa tijang cheku re. Tso sa tijang ma chana chanjuk sem kya yo maras lagu yorwa. What did didn't shake or Tana didn't shake her?
Samba Punzo Tanjora Punzo Dinishe, Dilla Cogore, da Dorduna. Leonipas la Shepe Kapki. And you have already heard probably a lot of Dharma teachings, and you might be very familiar with Shantideva, the Indian master, who in the 7th century but who was considered the author of the so-called Bodhicharya Avatara. And Shantideva, if you think about the Bodhicharya Avatara, then there's a very clear structure that answers exactly those questions. What do I need if I want to generate such a mindset, the mindset of bodhicitta? So the text itself starts with the first chapter of explaining what are the benefits, the qualities of bodhicitta. So then once we know what are the qualities of bodhicitta, then one will have the wish to generate this kind of mindset. So then the question comes, okay, if I want to generate this, what do I need? And Shantideva answers this question with the second chapter being all about the ways to accumulate merit and how to purify our negative actions, these being the two main actions that we need to engage in if we want to generate such a mindset, the mindset of bodhicitta. So the first thing that one needs to do, the first step in working towards generating bodhicitta, is the accumulation of merit and the purification of negativities. And that may be confusing to hear this now, when just before it was said that in order to generate bodhicitta, there's the mind training either of the 7 points or the mind training of exchanging and equalizing oneself with others. So now it is being said that we need to accumulate merit and purify negativities. Okay, what's the point here? The point is that training in the 7 points of cause and result, or training in equalizing and exchanging oneself with others, is really not something easy. Both these mind trainings are indeed not easy to train in and to get familiarized with. If we do not accumulate merit, and if we do not at the same time also train in purifying negative actions and veils. So without accumulation of merit, without purification of veils, it is very difficult to train in any of these trainings that will lead to generating bodhicitta. Allez, Jemadi. Oh ja, coba nanda tindak di pardura. Di kawaii na. Dreba nang la due. Dreba nang la yerbet sik. Puis tola sik det så.
Ja.
Som du såg nang la. Alle. Da chiktan chiga drosong. Ah yeah. So the next, coming to verse number 7 and half of verse number 8, is all about the first aspect, the aspect of accumulating the accumulations, gathering the accumulations. So reading the verse, facing paintings, statues, and so forth of the completely enlightened one, reliquaries, and the excellent teaching, offer flowers, incense, whatever you have, with the 7-part offering from the prayer of noble conduct. Yeah.
ale dambo de ale chi wo de le la ta dene sangye de la ku sung tu yo ku sung tu sangye go ku de ku ja sangye go sung de che de ja na ra zo da che si ja tu ge che de la den che den wo den de la den den da den de la ne ba che ne ku sung tu go ne ba che wa la den den dun du da che ba na ba dun to na den ma zo de chi yin su da cho sang chi yin su ba.
These lines we just read are referring to the way of accumulating merit by making offerings, accumulating the accumulations based on offerings, and to who is the object, who is the recipient, who will receive our offerings. Those are the recipients are the awakened Buddha or Buddhas, the noble Dharma, and the noble Sangha. Of course, we might wonder, how do I do that? Because I cannot necessarily meet them all the time. How can I make offerings to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha when they are maybe not around me or don't live anymore in the world right now in that way? So the answer is we rely on representations of the Buddha, so of his the representations of his enlightened aspect of body, the representations of his enlightened speech, and those of his enlightened mind, for example, stupas. So these three are to be envisioned as being one with the Buddha, being the Buddha's body, being the Buddha's speech, and being the Buddha's enlightened mind. And in front of these representations, we make offerings.
다 상기 그 구슬라도 고 샹샹저 있는 쓸고 있는다 물고 있는다 다리 있는 고가라 싸고 있는다 야나 찍박한 레모테이션 저지나 탕가 있는다 고방 있는다 가래 있는 양 데레 소소는 둔도야 쇼네 최대 유도 쇼네 나 상기 물고는 대 쇼에 삼배 나와잖아 다 된대 둔도 되는 차 차와라 달리 되면 림바라가 용거래로 최대 대한 상계 그 투랑 춘배 투랑 님을 매바셔 되는 저 부디도서 레밤도서 뭐네 저기 최군저랑 답답해 상계 뭐 송랑 인데 상계 그 송랑 인데 매바셔 당안 졸라 타면와 인바 인데서 용구야 말해 마도 장주 선바 손람 침볼랄레 사수나 상계게 지구든들 군다도서 나오면 손커도 준거야
초글람 첨보 갑라. 초글람 첨보 갑네.
전부 첨보 침복갑네 이거는 거기서 죽인 그 딩긴지 스타워 손에 치면에 값으나 다리 가리는 거야 알았을라도 요 상계게 그 디션저 레모티션저 지바 이내라 그런 수수 다가라 매바 샤트고 되게 숨져 나도 그러더라.
Dis tingel sing chige mingre bela. Ale.
뭐 되게 딱 뭐야. 알레 다 망고라 뭐지 알레 다 콘도 되들으지라 봐.
D'accord. And it doesn't matter what is the quality of this representation of the Buddha's body, whether it is a golden statue, whether it is made of silver, whether it is a image, maybe it's a clay statue, maybe it is a tanka, maybe some painting on the wall. Whatever it is, we should envision this object as being the Buddha himself, imagining the Buddha is sitting or abiding right here in front of me. So thinking that this representation is the Buddha himself. The same we should do with the representations of his enlightened mind, for instance, with stupas, thinking that this very stupa is the enlightened mind of the Buddha. It's inseparable with the enlightened mind of the Buddha. And also the same with all Dharma scriptures or books with Dharma teachings. We should see them and imagine them being the speech of the Buddha, to be identical with the speech of the Buddha, to be not different, that this very book is the speech of the Buddha. And in fact, for us beginning practitioners, that's maybe not yet experienced, but on the greater path of accumulation, a practitioner is said to cultivate certain states of samadhi, of meditative absorptions, where in fact such representations of the Buddha's body, for example, a tanka or other things, they are, because they are really being perceived as being the Buddha himself, able to teach, able to proclaim Dharma teachings, and the practitioner will truly receive Dharma teachings from these representations, from these statues or whatever they are, whether they are tankas. Medo, kares testimony?
Medo manda
Rigmampo.
Marme, teacher, Shese, Jumo. Oh, the day dagger didn't move the dagger, then Shabachi.
And now we have seen that here the text shows the first step to accumulate merit is by making offerings. What should these offerings consist of? And there are various objects that are included, for instance, flowers of all sorts, of all kinds, then butter lamps or candles, then perfume, water, and food of various kinds, and music.
Oh, yeah, that was right. That the and Shabbat, so can't you but the Pina degree was Michi Carpina degree was Carpuba in a degree was Shabbat. The Carpuba in a degree was the Carpu Chitana degree in a view watch a bugle mountain, be move as Pina. Chala pagan mountain as Yapua, you know. Ah, did I nimba chas, Ruach Yachuba Piso said, Yimba, the Runga Ruma was.
And some people may wonder, is there anything that's excluded, or can I offer anything that I have? And the answer is yes, you can offer anything that you have, but it should be suitable. It should be appropriate. So not something that has gone bad, or that's that doesn't have any purpose at all. Like imagine if somebody would make you a gift of something that I don't need this anymore, or I don't need it at all, I'm just going to give it to that person, or oh, this food has gone bad, I will just give it to the Buddhas, to my shrine. That's really not appropriate. Tikapsu porpa di sozo tunse porpa di ina digire chapura nashin yana lokas chigla lumne.
On digire so taran digire. So care bejo kan tagna tagni samo soje din ya pyesh. So masa ngola yakshoba ya pyesh samashta. Nanzu chisa chidung ge 그게 쳐봐서 그냥 가르쳐요. 그냥 가르동게 되게 아니 그냥 마상만 약 쳐봤어.
That's all.
응? 이게 그냥 마세죠. 그냥 세죠. 무다가 사그마르지. 그냥 세죠.
You should offer the best things that you have. So, for example, if you decide to make water offerings, water bowl offerings, then choose clean water, the cleanest or best water that you have at hand. Or before drinking your morning coffee or tea, clean your cup. And then when you have put the coffee inside, then offer it before you put it to your mouth and start drinking. Like when it's really fresh, really new, clean, just freshly brewed, then offer it at that point. And therefore, it is said that actually you can offer anything that you would drink or eat, but do it before you start to eat or drink the food.
나즈가 쳐봐대. 제가 먼저 그냥 매도 야고 시켜봐이네. 매도 나 매도 야고 싶으시. 알레 너무 나야 쳐봐주고 있잖아. 과 매도 즉 때려지어봐이나. 가서 매도 코마지어봐이나. 야 내가 쳐봐주고 쳐상나라. 이들은 막 그냥 가고 시작을 샤주고.
Or, for example, if you buy a beautiful flower or find a beautiful flower that you decide to take home, then before putting it into a vase, take a moment and in front of your shrine and offer it to the three jewels. And after that, you can put it in a vase and place it wherever you want.
다들에 다이나 간서 데나 간서 진주로 봐야 쳐봐자 aslo 숨어 티디라 간이스나 지가 시바디게나 진주로 봐야 된 쳐봐자 진주 봐야 쳐봐자 진주 봐야 쳐봐자 라디오잖아 당아 쳐봐자 좀 보시비 제고도 제가 디 알랑아 쳐봐 피하게 벤조 사고도 와 오가 총제 자고도 마차상지 랭고도 간상한테 쳐봐피고도 슬라바이나 디디기야 말았어 상당다 디디기야 말았다 그런 강 여바디야 쳐봐피 상당으로 마다 지게 그런 매간지 제가로네 쳐봐피 슬라고야 말았어
So the text says in the last line of verse number 7, offer whatever you have. And some people might think, okay, maybe I feel like I have nothing to offer right now. So maybe before I start offering something, I should first make money or gather wealth so that I can make offerings. Maybe I should do some business so that then I can make offerings. And Geshe says, no, that's not okay. We should, in fact, offer what we have, and not what we don't have. And therefore, we try all sort of things to procure what we don't have right now. So we should use what we have now. For example, one thing that you always have is your body, so you can make prostrations, which is something very important, and make offerings with your body by prostrating.
오까 강 군대 춘주지 여바이난다 뭐 드네진 드는 그냥 인지문지 차세다 드네 공시 소소그 류가 예숨디 다 추럽히기였어 오랑 아랑게 드네 류기 드네 라니다 배워도 배무도 살로 투제 드네 왜 야랑하게 쳐바치겠어 어디네 쳐바피야로 what does get 뭐랬어
And you do not necessarily need to have a huge shrine for this. And you can have just a small shrine, that's okay. Of course, it's amazing, great if you have a big shrine, but it's not, if you don't manage, or if you don't have the space for it, that's not a problem. You could just have one tanka on the wall, or one image of the 3 jewels and so forth, and make prostrations to them. It's really important to make this habit of prostrating. That's something very, very important. And when we prostrate, we are not prostrating only with the body, but we are prostrating at the same time with the mind, with the speech. And we do it by bringing the 5 points of the body to the ground. So that would be the forehead, the hands, and the knees. So these touch the ground. In that manner, we prostrate with these 5 limbs. And those are really important, very important ways of offering. Prostrations are very important offering. Yes, so there was a question you can ask.
Anne has a question. Anne, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Well, you have done it, really. I was wondering about the trauma offerings. When I take them off the shrine, could we have some advice on what to do with them? And I tend to use seeds and feed the birds and things, but I don't know what it is. I would be grateful for some advice on that. Thank you.
torma pulgiroa.
뭐래요?
어디 값수 torma pul sarve jugla tes karechegona torma digi ko sogumidu namyunge chiu tang dindela kala la digius inandi digio me sebo chera chuma songs. That's okay.
tor마들아 인짐지 또마지 샹되고 말다 스키나 제 야고드는 게 야가 쳐봐 퓨 이게 제일 캐나 마사샤나 디그리스 캐나 살로야지나.
So that's okay, you can feed the torma to the birds, but it's not necessary that you offer a torma. You could just buy some great kinds of food and offer these to the shrine, and then at some point after having offered them, then you can take them off the shrine and then eat them yourself.
then 캐나 준다레레 나 녀자 제가 이거나 캐나 다 사야도 녀 오르바 녀네 두 녀제 또 녀자들게 대 샤제 쳐봐지 야오지 퓨 근데 캐나 프리지나 봐주 가주고는 직주
Pulsarve jugla yina shagore ni machik kaza.
야고 말해 인지비 샤고 야 쳐봐 퓨 then 프리지나 가와시나 샤 냐도바 님바 마샹한도 님은 프리지나 루망어드네 임바이나고 자감나 루망어한도 님은 내 처샴나도 쳐봐 프리션은 되기로 봐 그런 대기로 임바이나 고 쳐봐 싶으면 되고
Teb.
대
Ale.
라이스 위트 가르임바이네로.
So, for example, if you go shopping once a week, then after doing your shopping, you could take the things you bought, or some of the things you bought, and make an offering in front of your shrine to the 3 jewels. And afterwards, you could take them and put them into the fridge or wherever you have to put them. You could also, offer rice or any sorts of barley or whatever corn that you have. That's also okay. And then afterwards, eat it. Yeah, bread or whatever.
Atisha garsundos nade de yesi kerala de kiloji yobaina ti apinan digresundo
De sarwa sarpa.
no de zo mare zo ne pinan digre mazo de ya choba pinan digyota choba biur webe zere to.
Atisha said you could also offer a kilo of rice, of not boiled rice. That's totally okay. Kuchik temperatures on the chick kilo rice.
Pure webe.
Ale, so any substance that is suitable can be offered.
Kera choba pindu sim sambo dinji ale de je nyeyo no 야 저거 그냥 저는 저거 표현 더버 이거 씀 상부시켜 있는 거 같아. 나도 되는지 겨워 되는지 싸고 여러분.
So when you offer it, then it has to be combined with the wish of making the offering, with this kind-heartedness, the proper positive mindset that wants to make this offering. And then that will be meritorious, there will be virtue that's going to be accumulated, and therefore that's what we can do.
저런 즉 세리기 나도 잡는 거 가나 셔바 좀 비해서 템바 있나 하자 약으로 봐 되게 돼.
죄송아.
다 되게 돼 처음 비해서 마템바 있나 약 말아 봐. 씀 상무 말아 봐. 씀 약고 말아 봐. 겨와 쓰기면 돼.
그래.
처음 비해서 전수나 다른 겨와 쓰기도 봐.
Achubabu temba tsamki ngusu mapulna zemina.
다 가사 제면아
Kirangi temba tsamki sungsu ata temba tsamsen ata pulwe zen nyamdula.
표현 그 처음 표현이 템바 상대 레슨 상고 얘기도 왔어.
Really, so just the moment we have the wish or the thought, oh, I want to offer something, that's already a positive mindset, isn't it? So without that mindset, then we do not take action and we also don't accumulate virtue.
제 무슨도 소설 제 나발이 여봐 있나 내가 잠도가 그 무슨도 쳐고 피고요. 하자야 그러.
Yeah, and then when we combine it with a substance, we take it into our hands and really formalize the offering, and that's really something incredibly positive.
다 된대송도 제시 따라와. 제시 따라와 가르친 거라서나 다 접근조 숨라 쳐봐 피하다. 란데 라마라 쳐봐 피하데 상보다 년바 가르 야가시. 술을 야가시 피해 상당 거로 됐어. 디전에 다 냥바레스. 아산길 쳐봐 피하다. 란데 라마라 쳐봐 피하다 냥바레스.
And Geshe Sharawa brings up the question, what if to whom should we rather offer? Should we rather make offerings to the three jewels or to our guru, to our spiritual teacher? And Geshe Sharawa answers this question saying that actually it doesn't matter, that both are equally fine.
야, 까담베 게시 라소에 가르친 거라서는 게시 라소에 됐습니다. 라마를 피해도 야가 거래스. 접근조 술을 쳐봐 피해 될래 소설 라마를 피해도 쳐봐 피해도 다 쳐봐 야가 되고 그랬잖아.
And the Geshe Lasarwa said that according to him, it is better to offer to one's spiritual teacher rather than to the three jewels.
근데 다 도서 다 되네 도심바 다 되네 차 채와다 디바 샤바다 네 제소 이랑 네 군신 소와다 바다 네 모아체 바 그래도 시부지야 된대도는 제 시부지신 거
Serwadapa, the chuki kolu serwadapari. Chukorku.
중국어라서
Ani more.
네 모아체 바다 계속
And then the sangmat maredi tsoksak be yenagro diana dum. And therefore that's so one of the 7 branches that for gathering the accumulations is the branch of offering, and then the other branches are the branch of prostration, of confessing the negative actions, of rejoicing in the positive deeds of others, of supplicating Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to turn the wheel of Dharma and to remain. And the last branch is the branch of offering the roots of virtue.
다 되지 조선 대 야라 듬바데 대체라 지셔나 마도 야라 듬바데 야데 스케션
그래, ngana chiuchi.
너
The 가르치는 ngaran kita chong yagi chuba puyaki chedu dinisana ka르치는 digio mare.
다 미산의 계산사 내가 상길 쇼핑 스거라 봐.
Ngana la kepsam sane pugins. Kandis.
그냥 손지 겹 미션다 손의 계산지 수 네. 야 쇼바 피기 스거.
나 디시라 두자 통금도.
도저 내내 다때 진주와 쇼바스 쳐야. 진주와 쇼바.
치주.
진주와서 걔는 강 예마도 피해서.
Ale tamda kare yobadi.
어디 상.
야야.
그렇죠. 그 치들 진주와서 치들 다다들. 예바도 마다 나 쳐봐도 비에 쳐도 깔려가지고 근데 상당 말. 총지 최상질래 이 쳐봐지 피 근데 상당. 직전에 나든 사가야 고지 주 사가되나 계산 망고지 내들은 아야 군자라 쳐봐지 인생서는 근데 제가 말했어. 하고서
근데 제 거기 맨에 양 어디야보면도 애미 지금 당황은에 근처 숨당에 나게 라마라 추바푸야기 치도 나랑 내가 야부치 독이 세기 인스네드네 가시 디네 상기 여기로
와 인기래.
이 야부 통기도 왕에 당무시나 제 어디로 당은 가지기
얘네 다 되게 나라라 가인스나 미디게 레가라 되네 레가 담아다 봐.
내가 장고 멤버 딘데 키릭 알레야
그냥 담아다 레기도 봐.
디안디 말와. Okay, so the 7 branches are a very important topic, and the time for today is over. So we will go over the 7 other branches in the next sessions. And then I said to Geshe-la that I have also a question, which is, why is it not good that I, for example, say I want to make offerings, and therefore for this I will do some business? And Geshe-la says, because you are, first of all, there are so many kinds of businesses which often entail something that's kind of, you are getting richer because somebody else, because of the costs of somebody else and so forth. And therefore, that's just not the meaning of the line here, which says whatever you have really refers to what you have right now, what is available to you right now. You do not have to go somewhere else to search for something, but to use whatever you have now.
Okay. 장주 선조 렘보치.